Indiana. I mean, it is so unfortunate that Curtis Rourke went down. I mean, it is so unfortunate. That Indiana football team is playing so well. They are a top 10 football team, and I don't have any doubt about that. I don't have any doubt about it. Now, it looks different with Curtis Rourke out. I know it's extended time. I don't know. It sounds like he should be able to return at some point in the season. It's just so unfortunate, man, because not that Indiana matches up with Ohio State, talent-wise, and they would have to go on the road against Ohio State, but I think there's a lot of teams in the country that Indiana can give a really good football game to. So they're not just beating teams, they're blowing out football teams. And they take it to Nebraska at home, 6.5-point spread. You win by 49 against that Nebraska team. You scored 56 points against that defense. And Taven Jackson, even when in his limited playing time, he still looked pretty good there too. I mean, the coaching staff that they got there, Kurt Cignetti, Mike Shanahan, they're doing such a spectacular job with this football team. And I'm not even here to just dog on Nebraska. And yeah, I think the way that Dylan Raiola has been playing is, a little bit concerning moving forward through the rest of the season. I have no doubts he'll be a great quarterback down the road, but gosh, Indiana, what an unbelievable game by them.
Yeah, it was awesome. I will say I do think it did get out of hand in that second half because of, Nebraska was being aggressive, going for it on fourth down. Those interceptions obviously were big. But not to take any credit away from Indiana and Cignetti, this fan base. It was awesome. Wasn't that great? Wasn't that great for you Indiana fans to see that at home? Marquee game, big noon kickoff was there. You ran the ball well. Curtis Rourke was super efficient. And then even your backup, right? When Jackson came in, I thought he played well too, slung the rock pretty darn well. He gives you an interesting dimension there running the football. So, yeah, we'll see how Indiana moves forward without Curtis Rourke. Obviously, we talked about Rourke, and that was one of his things, was an injury history at Ohio. Now, this is a fluke injury, it was a thumb. You're not going to – it just happens, right? That it sucks. It absolutely does. But holy cow, I do hope they can survive the next couple weeks because I do think the showdown off a bye against Ohio State – obviously, Ohio State will be, not heavily favored, but significant favorites in that football game. And obviously, you mentioned that talent edge, but the coaching matchups, the buzz, the intrigue, it's awesome. I think it's really exciting for Indiana. As for Nebraska, I'm not pulling the plug on Rilo, like you said. I'm not pulling the plug on Matt Rule. They just got outclassed. They got outcoached. They got outclassed in this football game. You get down early there. You have a couple things that just don't go your way with the fourth down conversion, the interceptions, right? Things that just didn't quite get going offensively, especially running the ball early in the game. Yeah, that's going to happen on the road. That's what happens when you can't run the ball on the road. So a lot was put on Raiola. I don't think that's the recipe going forward, but holy cow, did Indiana handle Nebraska's defense. They were just cutting through them like they weren't even there in that second quarter on. Holy cow. It was awesome. It's really excited to see. This is a great football game. I don't know how serious of a playoff contender Indiana is right now, but I am very open to the idea that they could absolutely be there for sure.
Yeah, I agree with that 1,000%. And I talked about in our previews, right? And we both talked about, how high we are on Illinois and Indiana, right? How we think that this roster turnover that they did, we don't think that they just got players, they got good players. And it's hard to see sometimes when you get G5 transfers at the offensive line position, it doesn't always work out, But in this case, I don't think Indiana brought in any G5 transfers on the offensive line. They just have a good coaching staff, and these guys are just playing unreal. They're just playing unreal. I cannot be giving enough credit to Indiana's offensive line, and then, of course, the defense. You bring in a ton of James Madison transfers on that side of the ball.
Holy cow, making plays.
They're just making plays. Mikhail Kamara, with 5 sacks on the season, he's just playing unreal. You've just got playmakers all over the place, and they're not. I wonder, if they get to a team like Ohio State, it's a different class of athleticism, I think, of athlete, but is it crazy to? I'm not ready to give the coaching edge to Indiana in that game, but I think there can be a conversation about it.
I think that's more so the story is that it's not even about knocking Ohio State's coaching staff, even though I was a little disappointed with the game in the Oregon game, but I still trust Jim Knowles. I still trust Kelly and Ryan Day
Yeah,
offensively there.
it's
But
a great staff.
it's a great staff. But I do think it's more about how good Indiana's staff is. That's the real conversation. That's the real storyline there. Yes, there's an actual conversation to be had, not because of Ohio State's disappointing season, not because of Ohio State's, we're dropping that coaching staff. No, it's because Indiana is doing things, elevating players, putting them in great schemes, finding fits early. They have not trailed all season, right? That's the stat that's going around right now. And that continued all day yesterday.
They've also covered the spread in 6 straight games, and these are some big spreads. The only game that they haven't covered the spread in was the closing line of Indiana FIU. It closed at 24.5, and they won by 24. And I believe that number opened less than that. So depending on where you got the number at, Indiana's covered in every single game this season. Just like
Whack it.
they are so good, and I know that that's going to downgrade. Now you don't have Curtis Rourke. We'll see. We'll see how Taven Jackson does moving forward. And I still feel good about Nebraska, making a bowl game and, having a good season, playing some teams tough. The defensive line, there's still a lot of goals that you can have. I think Matt Rule's done a good job building this team and in his second year. So I'm not going to downgrade Nebraska a ton, even though they just got absolutely waxed by Indiana. I just think Indiana's really good. So nothing to slander Nebraska about necessarily.